Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make tiny improvements to your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon.
Welcome to this episode. We have two returning guests, people you know very well. Elizabeth from Fiore Tax Services and Jeff from Asset Lab. And we are going to do a 1-2 punch talking about recession-proofing your business, which sounds really scary, but also something that we can be prepared for. So, Elizabeth, kick it off. Are we in a recession? What's going on with the economy?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So we're not technically, the R word hasn't been officially used. So we're not technically in a recession, but right now inflation is sky high as everyone can feel it. Everyone is feeling the pinch at the grocery store, at wherever they're buying things. So there is definitely some anxiety and some anticipation for what the next 12 to 18 months could look like. So even though we're not there yet, all of the economists are saying this is something that will likely happen. We just don't know to what degree, and we don't know how the markets will be affected yet.
So as a business owner, should we all be crying?
No, don't cry yet. What I tell people is now is the time to take like a big deep breath and strategize. Like don't freak out and start canceling everything, looking for a W-2 job. Like now is the time to figure out what you're really good at in your business, what is working, what is not, and really kind of double down on the things that are working.
And I would hop in and say, and hi everybody, this is Jeff at Asset Lab. I would hop in and say, this is the time to look at the things that make you the most money. And it's time to start doubling down on the things that make you the most money and the advertising or marketing that makes you the most money. And just focus your effort on the areas that bring you the most profit. Maybe there's some fun things you've been doing on the side or some not fun things you've been doing on the side to try to grow something new and it's not working out. Now's the time to say no to that and cut it from your list.
Yeah, and I think for me too, I'm guilty of just like, oh, it costs like $10 to make this without actually crunching the numbers. And then it's like, wait a minute, balloons used to be $10 a bag. Now they're 15. It's not $10 anymore. And I'm the one eating that difference. So I am excited to take the time to sit down and really, first of all, just figure out what my items cost and kind of get a new, fresh look. Because Elizabeth and I, we were in like a workshop that she was hosting, and I was the guinea pig. And it was very apparent. I was like, I don't know, probably like $10. And other people were like, well, we use your material method too, and it's more like 15. And also don't forget the command hooks because those are expensive. And I was just like, oh yeah, we're a little bit closer to 20. So that's a big difference.
That is a great point, Sarah. And that is exactly right. So profit margin is everything because that's going to be the difference between your business doing well during this tough time and you breaking even or losing money. So knowing what those profit margins are on your products, and I know that sounds scary, like, oh my God, I'm going to have to reconfigure everything or raise prices. No, just knowing what your profit margin is the first step.
And I would like to point out that you probably know who your best target customers are, right? You probably know which services you're offering, which decor, what type of entertainment. You probably know what works the best for you when it comes to actually fulfilling that need, and you can charge for it and you make money on it. This is a time to be thinking about those things that work again, right? So who are your best target customers and what can you do during this time to do more of that work? To call those past clients and generate more, to focus on your pricing for those specific items. There's this mix of two things going on right now. There's inflation and the concern and anxiety around recession. So some of this conversation is really, well, prices are changing, and so your prices should be changing. But part of this is also, how do you make sure you're focusing on the things that are working best for you so that you can plow through whatever this change brings, right? If you started prior to 2020, you got to experience the massive changes in the market from COVID. And during that time, balloon decor businesses had to shift really significantly the kinds of services they were offering, the kind of customers they were targeting, all of that. And that comes out of the desire to keep your business alive. But by simply focusing on who are your best target customers and the best services you can provide, and then focusing on how to generate more of those customers for your business during a downturn or a change in your market, that's really the area to focus, in addition to
Well,
the inflationary aspect now.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but also kind of give you the floor here, because for the pandemic, my business thrived. And I think part of the reason that happened was because I was able to pivot really quickly on my website. I was able to change what I was doing, and I was also able to tell people effectively and quickly what that looked like and what that was. And I saw a lot of people in groups like, I I don't even have a website. I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to log into my website. Like, I am a big advocate of websites. I know there's still people that don't have them. But how, like, I'm just going to give you a chance to have a commercial here. How can Asset Lab help people in those situations? Because you do have kind of a back end, like, you file a ticket and things get updated. I think speed is really important in those situations. Don't you?
Yeah, so I'll start with a real quick story around 2020 and 2022. So we had several clients in 2020 that had to make a really fast, hard pivot from corporate, Fortune 1000 company events to front yard decor, because over the course of a couple weeks, all of those corporate events got canceled. Those offices were closed. There were no employee morale events going on. It was gone. That market was gone. And so we had clients that we help with their website, with their advertising and all that. And those businesses called and said, "Hey, we need to make a shift. That market's gone. What can we do?" And so we did many website redesigns in February, March, April, May, June of 2020, away from very corporate feels over to very birthday and family event feels, and highlighting those kinds of products and services, showing that work, as opposed to what was very corporate focused, right? Large installations inside of offices, inside of fulfillment centers or dealerships. And then come 2022, those same businesses were coming back, 2020, 2021 and 22. They've come back and said, "Okay, that business market's there. We make way more money and we want to do this business work. Can we do a redesign on our website and go back to a business feel?" Yep, absolutely. One of the magical things about your website and your social media profiles and your Google, Bing, Facebook, Apple Maps profiles is they help people find you without you having to take that work. They help people decide to work with you. And so if you're seeing a change in your market, if you're seeing a change in demand for your service, this is a time to figure out what is selling and to pivot what you're showing in all these places to match what you need to sell now. And
Yeah,
that's one of the
that's so
great
smart.
ways that you can just pivot your business right through this whole situation is figure out what people need now and start showing them that and showing that you can deliver that. And if you just stay in that spot of, I'm going to learn and adapt and keep stepping into the problem and keep stepping into the changing market, you're going to navigate this whole situation. You're going to navigate the financial and cash flow side. You'll navigate the marketing side. You may be in a really great position to to build your client list during this time as well, when other businesses might struggle through this because they don't have that very positive action focused attitude around the changes that are happening in your market.
Well, and something you said reminded me. So I love Denise Duffield Thomas. I know Elizabeth does too. And she's kind of like a women's business coach type of person. And her sales plan, like how she tells people to sell, is share what you know and make offers. It's like her 2-step sales plan: share what you know, make offers. And I think there's a lot of people that don't do either of those things, and they're confused why they don't have any clients. Like,
Completely agree.
or like people ask me all the time, how do you get more corporate clients? And honestly, I haven't done an episode about it, because the truth is they find me in almost every situation. They have found me. I'm not like cold calling. I'm not like a networking machine. I just have a website that ranks pretty well and shows what I do. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of other jobs I don't get because those things aren't on my website. So sharing what you do and making an offer or making it really easy for someone to contact you, I think is what you should be working on now to get ahead of whatever might come. And Elizabeth,
Yeah.
what is actually going to come? Like, what are we going to see? If there's a recession, does that mean that businesses spend money? Do you see any trends? Because you do a lot of books for balloon people specifically. What does that mean? Does it mean people are going to spend less necessarily?
Not necessarily. And that's kind of the big what if, and the big unknown that has business owners grappling with what to do, is the fact that a recession could happen does not necessarily mean that people are spending any less, especially because there's kind of this pent up need from the previous 2.5 years to celebrate and to have events. So just because the recession is coming doesn't mean that that's necessarily where they're going to cut the funds. Um, One of the biggest things that I stress is you want to make sure that your cash flow is top notch. You want to make sure that you are getting paid up front, that you are collecting payments automatically if you aren't already, so that you can really make sure that your business has what it needs to continue, so that you're not floating other people's events with your business. You're actually getting that cash flow and floating your own business. And in particular, one of the things that we've seen is this stress of, well, all the prices of everything are going up, so I need to raise my prices 25%, 30%. The reality is that having a healthy profit margin on your products does not always mean you just raise the price blindly. Sometimes it means you take something away. Sometimes it means you analyze if that's something you should even be selling. So it's not you can't just attack it from a blanket statement point of view and say, I'm going to price myself out of the market and nobody's going to buy from me, because that's
Yeah.
not
Okay. I have
reality.
a personal story to share about that. I'm glad you said that because I've been questioning this. But my grab and go garlands are $100. And I think it's a really sweet spot. But as things have increased, everybody has been raising theirs. But I'm like, I have a hard time seeing a mom spend $150 on a garland. At that point, I think the scales kind of tilt to more of like a DIY. Like that's just too much. So I've done everything that I can to keep it at that $100 mark, which meant I used to use, this is really specific, but it's all balloon people listening. So I used to use like 4 16-inch balloons in every cluster. And then I would string together like 8 of those clusters. And that's a freaking ton of balloons. So over the years, I've scaled back, scaled back, scaled back. And now I'm using one 16-inch balloon and more 11-inch balloons. And then instead of 8 of those clusters, I'm down to 6. So essentially what they're getting has shrunk and everyone's still happy about it. So I've kept that price point the same, but the actual product has lessened, if that makes sense. Did I
Brilliant.
explain that clearly?
That's exactly it. And the reality is they may not even remember what they got before,
Right.
so they're not going to sit here and compare them apples to apples. But now you're still offering at a price point that they can hit, that they feel good with and comfortable paying that, and you're also still making money.
Yeah. Very cool.
And I would ask you all listening, if you're doing some of this, if you're thinking on, there's some things that I might be increasing my prices on. There's some things I want to hold the line on my prices on because they're targeting a specific market or they're a particular draw in for my business. Make sure you're taking advantage of that and considering, am I changing my service to hold a price point? And if I am, you got to make sure you're getting that customer information and storing it and turning that into more orders in the future, right? You got to be taking the opportunity that you're giving yourself by doing that. You can, on the other side, you can go raise your prices and it might change the amount of demand you have for your services. People might shop you more. They might go do more DIY. That's okay. It's going to change your business differently. But if in particular, you're trying to go after a specific market, hold a specific price point, please take the opportunity, especially now when you probably want to tighten everything up, take the opportunity to leverage that opportunity you're giving yourself by holding that price point and making those changes.
Very cool. I want to talk more about price because I feel like Elizabeth has the crystal ball because you're inside all of our numbers. You actually know. Let's take a quick break and hear from a sponsor. Spoiler alert, it's going to be Jeff.
Yay!
But we'll take a little break and then come right back.
Are you facing some competition? Hi, I'm Jeff from Asset Lab, and we help balloon decor businesses stand out online and generate more leads, more phone calls, and more contact form submissions through great online marketing. We can help you with your website, social media, advertising, Google search, you name it. We've helped balloon decor businesses with it. Learn more about us at assetlab.us.
Okay, welcome back. I wanted to chat more about pricing because I get a ton of questions about pricing, but I tend to kind of avoid the topic because what I charge in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, isn't even a conversation based on what they charge in California or like the UK. You know, like people always want to know about pricing, but it's just like not even a conversation really worth having. But Jeff wants to have the conversation.
Jeff is freaking out over here wanting to talk about price.
All right, go for it.
I want you to be comfortable talking about prices and potentially putting them right on your website. Because when you put pricing on your website, you're helping your potential customers self-select whether or not you are the right fit for them before they've even spoken with you. Now, that's the simple answer. You know, Jeff, how much should I charge? Well, it's very service and market specific, right? What's a market? Like what town are you in? That's when I say market. Or what target customer do you have? Even if you're in a town where private parties don't go for very much, but you can work car dealerships and they have a bunch of money, like it might vary within the target customer. But I am a big fan of showing pricing on anything that you can clearly describe. So what's that mean?
Yeah, what does
A grab
that
and
mean?
go garland is something you can clearly describe. And so you can show pricing on that. If we're talking about a New Year's Eve party balloon drop with big celebration wall and selfie station and all sorts of other things, we can't clearly describe that. And so then you get into, okay, well, that's between, this much money and that much money. And you've immediately communicated that it's complicated to your customer. So you might not want to be communicating prices on those large, more complex, very service-oriented kind of items. But please don't be afraid of pricing. It can really help, particularly on those items that you can clearly describe. So if you come to see our balloon-specific services, for example, on balloonsuite.com, you're going to see prices all over the place. We're telling you exactly what's in each package and what that costs for you so that you can choose which package is right for you. If you needed a large custom website, you're a distributor, manufacturer, you're a service provider to the balloon decor industry, you're not going to necessarily see pricing on that because we're going to need to understand your business needs. You have a unique business need, and then we can get you to a pricing conversation. But it's very much worth our time and your time to show pricing on those easy to describe items. And that's certainly a change we can help you with if you're trying to figure out how to do that on your website or in your social or whatever it might be.
Yeah, totally agree. Completely agree. I have a whole episode about pricing transparency. We'll link to it. It saves me hours a week. Honestly, it saves me hours a week because the people that are not in budget don't even contact me, and that's fine. I know people are obsessed with counting leads. And like there's something to be said for that. But if none of them are qualified, if all of them have a budget of $50, why are you spending your time replying to those emails? And like as a shopper, I get really annoyed. Like I rather just be like, can you tell me? Like I don't want to have to fill out this form and then wait to find out any information. Can you just like tell me? So I am all about having pricing on your website, and it keeps me straight. Like half the time I'm like, how much is an arch? $300. And if I look, I'm like, wait a minute, it's $350. Like I just underpriced myself. Like what? So having those numbers in writing, I think just helps everybody get on the same page. So Elizabeth, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
What are some of those profitable items? What are some of those things that you are seeing that you're just like, everyone should be doing this? Like the margin's crazy good. Like it's probably not in custom one-of-a-kind sculptures, I would estimate.
No, you're absolutely right. So what we have seen is like almost every single time super, super profitable is classic decor. Like every time we go through the pricing guide with our clients, we go through classic decor and it's always profitable. Like it doesn't matter how big we make it, what we put in it, it's always profitable. So that has been, especially for folks that got started in the last few years that may not be doing classic decor, that has been kind of eye-opening for a lot
Yeah.
of people of like, oh, maybe I should double down on this. Maybe I should go all in, especially because a lot of universities, a lot of high schools, a lot of like celebrations, local celebrations tend to use classic decor. So it's absolutely one of the most profitable things, I think.
Well, and for people listening, because I know there are a ton of newer people who started with organic garland, which is also
Mm-hmm.
very profitable if you have it down to like a system. You have to have a
Yes,
recipe, so you're not just winging it every
absolutely.
time. But if someone is listening and like totally doesn't know what that is, classic decor is like typically all the balloons are the same size, like a spiral column, a spiral arch, things you would see, like you said, at a university. I actually have had the same university book me now this year for 8 30-foot arches, 2 colors. Purple and white are their color. It is the easiest order. It is so profitable. I don't even charge enough. I think I only charge $500 for my 30-foot arches. I should go up. But they booked them all at the same time, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like in balloon coach, balloon boss mastermind, being like, how do I do this? That's how I run my business, by the way. I figure it out as I go, you guys. You sell it first and you figure it out later. And that has been one of my biggest clients because of those items. Like 2 colors of balloons all inflated to the same size has resulted in, what does that even come to? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, like $4,000 or $5,000. They just called me again. I'm delivering 2 columns next week before I go to Summit. So while it's not the most exciting, if it's done right, it looks beautiful. It's so easy to price. It's so easy to order for. And now if you're like me and you have someone inflating for you, it's so easy to tell someone else how to do it versus a custom sculpture. Like I don't even know how you coach someone through that. Like they basically have to be just as skilled as you are. So this allows you to kind of scale on a sense. So that's really interesting. Good old classic. I know there's people that resist it, but I love it.
It's a moneymaker. And one of the really interesting things too is that because it tends to be kind of large also, it makes a big splash. So I think people find that selling a lot of them makes the client really happy too, because they're like, oh, this is like all of a sudden a couple of arches really filled up the space and made it seem like this huge installation.
Absolutely. Five 30-foot arches on a football field was way easier to price and prep than a birthday party that wants 1 garland and 1 centerpiece and 2 floor length bouquets and 3 table centerpiece. Like that sucks. That's the worst type of order. It's a little bit of everything. It's terrible.
And if you're an organics focused decor company and you're thinking about this conversation right now and you're like, okay, yeah, but I do organics, come back to the topic that we're discussing and think about it, right? We're talking about what happens during inflation, what happens during recession. If you're seeing the need to shift your services because you're seeing a market change, that's when you might be thinking about this, right? And then how would I go about this? Sarah, Jeff, Elizabeth, what would I do? Well, you would test something, right? We would go to your marketing and potentially put up a new product and see if people responded to it. You could do a little social media work on a specific product, a specific classic item, and see if you were gaining traction on it, and you would test and learn. And this is the same thing that you should be doing right now on your social media, on your Google advertising, on your Facebook advertising, right? It's about optimizing your business for what you're seeing in the market. And this is a way that you could be adjusting and testing to find out if you've got something that's going to bring you cash flow and keep you big and growing in your market right now.
Very smart. And there are companies that do only organic and they're insanely profitable. So this is not poo-pooing them, but don't write off something that you think is boring because it could be a cash cow that you have not ever looked at before. Before we started recording, Elizabeth, you were talking about services. Well, you both were, Jeff and Elizabeth. You're both services that we as owners could could reach out to and ask for help. And you said, like, when people start slashing their budgets, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And I get that too. Like, I am very much like a saver. And I'm thinking like, okay, I can get rid of this and this and this, and I can save as much as I possibly can. But more and more I've realized I could do that, or I can just go the other direction and try to generate more revenue. So Elizabeth, talk more about what you were saying. Like, you see people kind of almost panic slash their services, and then that can backfire. How so?
Yeah, absolutely. So people start just cutting indiscriminately. And that is the worst thing you can do, because then you're actually cutting off all of those services that are kind of the lifeblood of your business that keep you going. So what you want to do is you want to take a very close look at what you have and who, your partners in business are, and see where are you getting ROI. So one of the things that, and Jeff is a shout out, we say do not cut your marketing budget. If you have the cash flow to keep your marketing going, do not cut your marketing budget. This is a really advantageous time to bring in new business, to keep your cash flow, and even you can stockpile some of that revenue for later if you need it. But right now, it's like going to a sprint and you start walking instead of running. It's just, you want to make sure you don't want to go into debt to keep your current services. That's definitely not something I would advocate for. But if your business can withstand it now, keep it going, because it'll help you get further faster than if you didn't have those services.
And I think it almost compounds too, because if I cut my bookkeeper and my girl who's inflating and, any other services that I have, now I am doing those things and I have less time to sell, which is what you really need to be doing. If people aren't just flocking to you, you're going to have to sell to them. And you've essentially eliminated your ability to do that, because now you're doing all these things that you were never doing in the first place. And let's talk. Can we talk a little about selling, Jeff? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you're great at selling. You've owned businesses, you've sold businesses, you're an awesome storyteller. For someone like me who is lucky enough to have a website that ranks and a lot of people find me, and I've been in business for 8 years, which gives me a huge advantage. How does someone who started during COVID get ready for maybe business not being so easy? Like, what are some strategies they can do to find those clients?
I'm a huge fan of making your marketing and your sales work for you. And so the very first, coming at this as a digital marketer, the very first thing we need to do to get your marketing working for you is make sure your website is speaking to the customers you specifically want to attract and showing them what you do for them, so that they will be motivated to contact you. As from then on, there's all sorts of different things we can do. One thing I love when times start getting shifty is I would love for you to have a customer relationship manager. And I would love for you to be using that to look at who has ordered from you at this time of the year in previous years. I would love for you to start calling them, please. Please don't be scared of the phone. That phone represents money, and it represents you solving problems for people. And that's why they want to pay you money. So this is a great time to be using your knowledge of your customers to get to them. And if your website is in the right spot, you make that call. They say, well, what are you doing right now? Or, what service? Or like, can I see examples? Now you can send them to your website, and you can both be looking at your website at the same time. To wrap this back to the pricing conversation, if your prices are there, you're going to quote the right price. You don't even have to think about it. You get to stand on the fact that everyone's getting the same price, and this, like, I don't think you can pay more, and so I'm charging you more, and that kind of thing. Like, there's a whole bunch of benefit there if we get the foundation of your website in the right spot. On the social media side, I would love for you to focus on what generates you sales, as opposed to what generates you likes and views and impressions. Because as people in balloon decor, we're all checking each other out all the time. I follow all y'all, right? I'm watching the kind of decor you're making and the kind of posts you're making. That doesn't help you generate sales. I am not your target customer. So take a look at what you're posting and where you're putting your time. And a lot of times that will bring us back around to what we would call content marketing. Things like putting articles on your website about 7 trends in birthday decor, or, 25 TikTok hot ideas for business morale marketing, right? Or business morale generation. We can be generating those kind of articles. And then as people see things on social or they're searching on Google, they're finding your business. And that now, once we start doing that, they can find your business no matter where they are, not just necessarily in your local market. And it opens up some really interesting possibilities for you. But notice how there's kind of some foundational pieces here. And then there's some just core sales stuff like the phone. And if you want one little tip, whenever times get shifty in balloon decor, you should be answering the phone and putting a phone number on your website. Get out of the way of your customers. I know there are many, many, many of you who love just getting the form submission. Maybe it goes to your CRM. I'll follow up with you when I want to. But if you want to grow in your market, if you want to attract a higher end customer, I need you to have a phone number on your website. Even if you're not the person answering the phone and you have an answering service or something like that, I need you to have a phone number people can call, because that's going to open up an ability to attract customers that you wouldn't otherwise. So back it up, listen to it again. That was a huge just mind dump of things you could be doing right now.
No, that was amazing. And I
great advice.
I am that person. I'm like, if you call me, I will kill you. Because I'm like driving and I like don't know what they want and I'm trying to explain colors so I read in the book club, in the Patreon group, we read The Pumpkin Plan. And I would say that was one of the most impactful books that I've read. And when it's a big pumpkin, you go to their kid's baptism if they invite you. Like, you do whatever. It basically says you play favorites. So while I still really, really want people to go to my website and my voicemail tells them there or to do that, you better believe that anytime that college calls, I pick up the phone. Anytime I see a phone call from a certain area where I know I have some business, I'm answering more and more and more. And a lot of times those quick conversations really reassure that customer. Like, they hear that I'm not crazy. They hear that I'm not going to like not show up. Well, I'm a little crazy, but it's comforting to hear a voice. And I think I've moved into a phase of my business where I'm really trying to focus on those relationships. And I think that's a bit easier to do over the phone. Or I have someone, and I just got a new client for a professional basketball team. And their first order out the gate was $9,000. So I was like, hello, let me save you to my contacts. And she's young. Like, a lot of times these people who are now managing these special events, they're 22 years old. They're not 55-year-old secretaries booking the balloons anymore. Like, they're young people who are texting more and more, and being able to meet them where they are has been a learning curve for me, because I want things done the way I want, but she'll text me and I will drop whatever I'm doing. I will fill out my own info form with her information so it goes into my system. But I now am trying to get, one up on other people who maybe didn't pick up the phone, and then I accidentally got a $9,000 job.
Bummer. Answered the phone and got a $9,000 job. I mean, you had to answer the phone some other times too, and it was a waste of your time. But yeah, that phone can be transformational. And I would just share that as a business owner myself, if I need a service, I like to call, because I want to give you my problem. I want to explain my problem, and can you help me with this problem? I don't want to spend time filling out your form just to find out in 10 seconds that you don't want to work with me. I'd rather call and give you my problem and then let you run with it, as opposed to just have a more transactional experience. But you see, I'm a business owner and I have an approach. If you know your target customers, you'll know whether or not they prefer the phone, the text, the form, whatever it might be.
Right. And it is interesting, though, because she did find me on Instagram. So it's kind of a mix of everything. I just don't think that there's this one size fits all client anymore. My client, no matter what, I'm trying to make it easy. That's my area of innovation. That's what I've been told in the Pumpkin Plan, your area of innovation. I'm all about the convenience, not as much about the bargain pricing or the super, super high quality custom everything. I'm very happy being in that middle of, as long as it's easy, we're all happy and we're going to get along. But yeah, it is changing the way that I do business. One thing that I want to share too, because I survived COVID, is that a lot of times, like, if stuff gets bad, a lot of these event positions, if they cut their budget, they might furlough people, they might leave, basically there will be a world of turnover. And that's a really scary time if you're lazy, and a super exciting time if you are a shark, because I picked up a lot of big contracts that didn't belong to me before, and now they do because whoever had them before either closed their balloon business or they didn't figure out who the new contact is. Like, I lost a lot too, but it's interesting. It kind of shakes things up, and it makes new contacts and new places that used to not work there. So if you're getting nervous and you're starting to lose some contracts, remember, like, everything's up for grabs when people start moving around positions.
And if you are focused on sales for your business, or you have somebody who is, that is a strategic risk when turnover happens. And as the person with the sales hat on in your business, whoever that is, you need to not only know your business clients, but you need to know their bosses 1,000%. Because that way, when that person goes, and this would apply anytime, not just in downturn or inflation, anytime that person changes jobs for any reason, you still have a relationship and you still have a phone number you can call to those important clients. It just happens to be a level up from where it was before. Hey, I haven't been able to reach so-and-so. I know you have this such and such event coming up. Just want to make sure that we can take care of you. Can you point me in the right direction? Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd like you to meet the new team member I have. This is right. And now you've created continuity. You absolutely, for those larger, big customers, for your valuable customers, you need that relationship, and you need strategically to have a multi-level relationship if it's a business. Absolutely, 1,000%.
And sometimes they multiply. Sometimes that person leaves and they take you with, and they leave you their old contact. So you get two businesses for the effort of one. Let's take one final break, and then we're going to come back and leave with just, we shared so much. We just did, like you said, Jeff, like a total brain dump. I love this episode. But let's leave on a couple of very practical, very easy to implement tips that people can take and do in their business after we wrap up.
If you haven't checked out Havin A Party Wholesale yet, what are you waiting for? And guess what? The deal just got even sweeter. Our friends over at Havin A Party have set up a special coupon code just for listeners of the podcast. Use code BRIGHTBALLOON for 5% off the next time you check out at Havin A Party. So head over to havinaparty.com for your next balloon order.
All right, welcome back. Let's wrap up. This has been such a great episode, but it's a lot, and I feel like I'm always guilty of listening to an entire book or an entire episode, and I have all these ideas, and then I do none of them. So, Jeff, let's start with you. If a listener is to do one thing to recession-proof their business, what would it be?
If you're trying to figure out what to do today, now that you've listened to this, something very specific that you can do today is to go to your Google Ads. If you're not running them, it's time to experiment. If you are running them, it's time to turn off the ads that are not generating you profit. And if you are running them and you don't know which ads are generating profit, that's the time to call us so we can help you understand exactly which ads are generating you profit as opposed to sales. So I want you to go check out your Google Ads account. And if you need help, I want you to take action and get that help, so that we can make that a strategic asset for your business instead of something that just takes up your money.
Very cool. And Elizabeth, what about you?
Along those same lines, the best tip I have is to actually evaluate your product mix and go through the process, price it out. Don't forget about overhead. Don't forget about, rising costs in your materials. Do price it out as it stands today, not a year ago. So you can see where your profit margins are, and then make decisions on your product mix based on those new profit margins. Maybe it's time to slash some of the duds, the ones that aren't making you any profit. Maybe it's time to, bring in some new products that are going to make you more profit.
Love it. And I am so excited to see you guys next week.
Woohoo!
Soon. So this episode is going to come out the Tuesday before we all head to Balloon Boss Summit in Florida. Elizabeth is going to be there. Jeff's going to be there. I'm going to be there. You can talk to all of us about any of this stuff. And if you missed out, they are obviously available to work with you. We will link to your business pages in the show notes. Thank you so much. This was so awesome. I'm so motivated. I don't feel scared. I got a lot of ideas. Honestly, I'm very excited.
Thank you for having us.
Yay.
All right. I will talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. If you're interested in bonus episodes, head over to our Patreon group where I release a brand new episode every week in our book club. Each month, I read through a brand new self-development book that helps us all grow and learn in our businesses. Or join the brand new Money Archetype tier and gain access to bonus episodes and resources all about your money archetype. For more information about any of the resources in this episode, check out the show notes or head to thebrightballoon.com.